Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and as you can see from the stock market today, it has pretty much surged since the very beginning at the pre-market. At 9 a.m. we were up 2.11%, and right now we are up even higher than that at 2.22%. So you can pretty much say that the stock market has surged today. It jumped a good percentage already. And as many of you know that are familiar with my channel and things like that, we always like to discuss certain news or events that affect the stock market and create a change to whether it goes up drastically or down drastically, or if it's just stagnant. So we like to break down news and correlate that to the market and show why the market is moving, because once you get used to how the stock market moves according to various news, it obviously won't help you predict the market, but it will give you a better reference point to make an inference on that and potentially guess where it will go accurately. But keep in mind the statement as it always goes, no one can ever really consistently predict the market. So when we analyze news and stuff like this, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to accurately predict the market every time, but it will give you a frame of reference to where you can kind of get an idea of where the market may potentially go according to that news. So these videos are just to keep you all up to date on the news and help understand what the market does in correlation to news that gets released. And I do these videos just so it can help you all become a little bit more familiar with the market and more comfortable in investing in stocks that you believe in if you've done research and stuff on that. But before we jump right into it and explain everything, I'll just go ahead and break down my gains and losses for today. So far, no losses in my portfolio. So we're up 3.14% on VOO, which is a $960 gain. That is absolutely amazing, especially for VOO. Then we are also up 1.14% for Microsoft, which is a nice $228. And then next up we have Apple, in which we're up 2%, which is $260 in gains, which I will always take, especially in one day. And then as you can see with Tesla, we are up 2.17%, or $155. So we're actually positive for Tesla right now, in which we've been off and on for a long time, negative and positive since we're on the borderline, but it's always good to see me in the green on Tesla overall. So back onto the explanation. Basically, the reason why the stock market has jumped up so much today is because, let's go ahead and find the article. It revolves around the stock known as Moderna, which is the ticker symbol MRNA, as you can see right here. And there was recent news that came out with this today involving their research on a coronavirus vaccine. And it says right here that Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine shows early promise, shares soar. So to basically break down exactly why this stock is soaring in price and affecting the whole stock market as well, it says early data from Moderna Incorporated's COVID-19 vaccine, the first to be tested in the United States, showed that it produced protective antibodies in a small group of healthy volunteers, the company said on Monday. And I'll leave the link down in the description for you all to check that article out, but basically that's the whole gist of it. If you want the greater details, you can go ahead and check out that link down below. And if you're just curious as to what Moderna really does, if you want to judge whether you want to purchase this short term or long term, I mean, it's done pretty well long term, but most of the gains have been recently within the short term year right here. But if you're curious, Moderna Incorporated engages in the development of transformative medicines on messenger ribonucleic acid mRNA. Its product pipeline includes the following modalites: prophylactic vaccine, cancer vaccines, intratumoral immuno-oncology, localized regenerative therapeutics, systemic secreted therapeutics, and systemic intracellular therapeutics. And then it says the company was founded by blah, blah, blah. Basically just names off some of the head people at the company. And it has a $27.16 billion market cap. But as you can see, other than the whole coronavirus situation, this stock was pretty much stagnant until about January, which is when the whole Rona situation, when we first started getting hints of hearing news about it, we kind of ignored it until pretty much mid-February. And then that's when it really started taking off. And that's when people started purchasing this stock because they thought that they could make some short-term money off of it. In my opinion, I do not think this is a good long-term stock, because whenever either Moderna figures out a vaccine or when someone else does, or simply this situation is over with, I can almost promise you that this stock price will drop significantly. If you take a look at the chart, the main reason this stock is doing well is simply because it is directly involved with the coronavirus situation. As you can see right here on August 9th, this was pretty much when there was no hint of hearing about the coronavirus or anything like that. No one knew about it. This stock was worth about $13.33. So I can promise you once this is over with, whether this goes up even more, that this stock will be worth much less than $82. It may just take some time, but just keep in mind, if you're investing in this stock right now, and especially if you're buying it at $82, you're taking a huge risk unless you're making a short-term play on it. This is a short-term play right here. This is one of those examples where you can sort of take advantage of a bad situation with the stock market, and it's sometimes a good predictable way to make money, at least much more predictable than a just random stock market crash instead of like a virus causing a pandemic leading to a stock market crash. So it is a little bit more predictable and, should I say, easier to make money in a market like this. Now, I will say with Jerome Powell and the Fed pumping out so much money, it's a lot harder to predict now because of that, but I'm talking in terms of maybe just saying, okay, where I see this stock going in the future, if they're successful, if they're not successful, and how you can either short it or make money on options with puts or calls. So there's a few ways to make money on this stock. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's worth messing with, honestly. I'm just one of those people that I select long-term high-quality stocks that are not going to face an issue of bankruptcy during an economic crash. And even if it's not bankruptcy, I always want to pick a stock that I think can handle a crash, one that can last long term through multiple crashes until the day that I retire. And also with that, you normally pick companies that tend to keep their dividend payments as well, even in rough times. Like, for example, I just got my Apple dividend payment. I'll probably be getting my Microsoft dividend payment soon. And then obviously I'll get VOO dividend payments. And then my final one, Tesla, doesn't have dividends. So that's just sort of an example of me picking high quality companies that don't even have to worry about bankruptcy. They don't even have to worry about canceling or decreasing dividends. Apple actually increased their dividends, but that's why I personally just wouldn't invest in this company right here. I try to keep my portfolio super simple. If I want to diversify, I buy an ETF like VOO, which basically does it for me. It puts them all into one stock instead of me having to have like 100 stocks for diversification. So I get a bunch of VOO and then I select specific companies and try to keep it at a minimum in terms of how many stocks that I own. And I'll select companies that do very well statistically based on their charts, based on their business model, based on what they'll be doing in the future, even in the next 40 years if I see them still being a popular company and a popular stock. And like I said, I keep those stocks at a minimum. So I only own 4 main stocks right now, and then I just have 1 free stock on the side that I'm holding on to. And when I see a stock like Moderna or simply just another stock that I'm looking at and questioning whether I should add it to my portfolio, an easy comparison that can help you make that decision is if you already own a stock in your current portfolio that performs better or is likely to perform better than Moderna within the next year or within the next 5 years, then it's simply just a good idea to buy more of what you already have in your portfolio that you've done your research on and trusted enough to buy for long-term holding. And so with a lot of the cases, a stock like Microsoft, which is my favorite one I have right now, often performs better than the stock that I'm looking at for their past gains for the past year or past 5 years. So then I just simply buy Microsoft, and that's still my number one right now, like I've said. But with a stock like this, it's kind of different because obviously it's up 262% in the past year, but you have to do a little bit of digging and research why it is up so much within the past year. Because if you are using that strategy, like I mentioned earlier, for me to keep a simple stock portfolio, then I would see that Moderna is up more than any of my other stocks that I hold for the past year. But if I do my research and understand why it is up this much, I realize that this is not a long-term thing, that Moderna is most likely to go down significantly in the future within the next 10 years or next 5 years. So to me, this seems to be a very short-term stock, and you have to take that into consideration when you're purchasing stocks. And there's also a lot of risk to this one as well, because we can't predict whether they're going to come out with an effective vaccine, whether it's going to fail, or what it's going to do. So you're kind of gambling on whether this stock is going to increase or decrease in the future based on whether that company can come up with an effective solution or not. So it's kind of just a 50-50 in my opinion, where you have other stocks out there like Microsoft and other options that you can almost predictively say this company has done well this year, it's going to do well in the future, and you don't have to worry about a situation where it's either Microsoft finds a solution to this or they don't find a solution and the stock plummets or increases. It's simply Microsoft does steadily well throughout the whole year. They have a consistent business model, and pretty much the growth chart for that reflects that. I mean, if you go ahead and look at Microsoft, it's what I would call a very consistent stock. If you look at the past 5 years of growth, it's pretty much consistency all the way up until this most recent crash that we've had, and then it has already recovered, I think, even past this peak right here. But anyways, back on to Moderna. That is simply my thoughts about the stock. It's one of those, if you do have a little bit of gamble money to play with, or if you don't usually do options, then this could be a stock out there that some of you could have fun gambling with if it is worth your risk tolerance. But for sure, there's a lot of other stocks out there that you can gamble with as well, such as vtiq. That's going to turn into NKLA, which is a Tesla competitor. They focus on electric vehicles and hydrogen-powered cells, so that's a pretty cool option out there too if you do want to gamble it, and it's pretty affordable. However, that's another one of those where I'm personally just choosing to avoid it because I have a high risk tolerance in some terms, but when it comes to unpredictability of a stock's future, then that is where I have a pretty low risk tolerance, because I don't really think it is really worth risking a lot of money on a stock when there's already a lot of others out there that have a pretty predictable future that you're almost certain that will do well. But in general, I do have a high risk tolerance. I just put a lot of logic into what I do with that. But anyways, I just wanted to share a quick video explaining why the stock market has gone up so much and why it's still up at that consistent 2.22%. That's what it was on when we first started this video. All of my stocks are green today, even the free stock. Bitcoin is really the only thing that's negative, and then vtiq. I think that may be one of those stocks that's like an inverse stock. It's basically like a put. You buy it expecting the market to go down, and then when everything is green, that stock does the opposite. So that's a minus 6.39%. If you were purchasing the short-term stock that expected for a red day to happen. But I have to admit, that is a pretty cool stock when it's almost guaranteed that it's going to go down. Like if we have a huge stock market crash and then the next day it keeps going down like we saw right in here, then this stock could be useful, just on a side note. But right now, I would not mess with this because especially with the Fed pumping everything, we have no idea. The market could continue on green until the next stock market crash in like a few years or so, which I think that a recession could potentially happen. Like, I feel like all logic points to that happening, but lately the market has not been logical in correlation to what is happening around us. So it's extremely hard to predict the market, and I've just gone on to where I'm not going to try to. I simply buy as usual. And honestly, dollar cost averaging, as they always say, that is the wave. That's the way to go. You can never go wrong just consistently purchasing high quality long-term stocks instead of picking and choosing which times to purchase. Because I remember somebody did a video, I think it was Solving the Money Problem. He did a video on Tesla and said, when Tesla is a multi-$1,000 stock in just a few years, there's going to be people that look back on it and say, man, I wish I would have bought Tesla stock for $800, but I just thought it was too much money at the time. And so with that logic, they never buy Tesla stock throughout the rest of their life because they're waiting for it to drop once again, and it never does. And that's kind of like with the stock market. Since we can't really predict it, you kind of have to pretend with dollar cost averaging that it's always going to go up because you simply buy every time consistently. And that honestly almost correlates with stock market history. It's very rare that a stock market crash occurs. Sometimes it's like 10 years of a bull market. So that's why dollar cost averaging is quite effective. Although sometimes, like if you dollar cost average right before the crash, that would have been unfortunate. But then again, you're also dollar cost averaging on the way down as well if you're doing it every single month or every few weeks or so. So in my opinion, if you're going to buy stocks and you're kind of like worried about the market currently, I don't think it would be a bad idea to just put in that monthly amount that you usually put in. You don't have to put in a lot right now, but you can simply just dollar cost average and put in that usual amount. And then of course, if there is another drop, then hopefully you have the cash to purchase on the way down like I did. I bought a ton of Microsoft right in here, and especially at the bottom. I bought it at the very bottom at $135 per share, and as you can see right now, this stock is up tremendously. This is why it's my favorite stock. If you look at the charts, it's just so consistent. You really don't see that form of consistency out of a lot of the other stocks out there either, which is what I find so impressive. But anyways, I just wanted to share this video with you all and hopefully give you some explanations on why the stock market is up so much today, why it's in the green so much, and then hopefully with this news you can learn how the stock market is affected in the future based off of future news that you see. Sometimes there's a lot of articles and news that you would think wouldn't even affect the stock market, but then like there's a specific stock or for a specific sector that it correlates to, and that affects that specific stock instead of the whole stock market. So it's almost like outer and inner layers of the onion if you think about it. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to smash that like button. It really does help out, and it helps these videos get recommended to newer people. And if you would like to begin investing and get some free stocks like this one right here, this one's over $10, so it's a pretty nice free stock. I got 2 of those. If you'd like to sign up, just use my referral link in the description to Robinhood and Webull, and we'll both get some free stocks, which is awesome. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Hope your Monday's at least going pretty well.